guys, it's Christy, and today's video is brought to you by National Fairytale Day. It's not brought to you by that. It's a collaboration that I created in order to have some fun with some friends. So to just get this started, their links will be down below, and they're all gonna tell a fairy tale. So today, do you know those like random national holidays that are just created out of thin air? Well, today is National Fairytale Day. So what we did is I created a group chat and invited anyone who was interested in telling a fairy tale. Probably most people's will be Disney related because we are mainly Disney channels. However, mine is actually a Harry Potter fairy tale. I've never really been big on like the romance fairy tales that you hear, like Snow White, Cinderella, all of those. I've never really been a big fan of those types of fairy tales because they're so unrealistic. I say they're so unrealistic, but this one is very unrealistic. Mine is a Harry Potter one. So if you're familiar with Harry Potter, which I'm pretty sure most, if not all of you are, most Disney fans also carry into Harry Potter. There is a fairy tale that they use as a bedtime story called The Tales of Beedle the Bard. So what I'm gonna do is read that one. I don't know if these will be copywritten. There's a good chance that they will be because they are stories by somebody else. So my full credit goes, of course, to none other than J.K. Rowling for creating this story. And here is my book. I've actually had this collector's book for quite some time. One of my favorite collections. It's a pack of 3. It has this one and 2 other books. So this says, this has additional notes with Professor Albus Dumbledore. So he actually put little notes in here. Well, you know what that means. So I'm just gonna go ahead and jump on into it. Please go check out the other participating channels. They'll all be linked down below so that you can go hear their fairy tales. I'm pretty sure that these fairy tales will probably be pretty good for you to play in the background for your children, although we are making this one adult content because this is a collaboration with other Disney channels that intend to just have a collaboration, and it's not like geared towards specific children. And some of the fairy tales I believe are more adult oriented. I know at least one is doing one from their home country and it is very much more adult oriented. So these are not considered child friendly, but as a parent, if you approve for them to hear it, that's fine. And mine really isn't either. The Tale of Beedle the Bard is a book, and it's a series of several different fairy tales. It's the Tales of Beedle the Bard, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them listed here. You've got the Wizards and the Hopping Pot, the Fountain of Fair Fortune, the Warlocks, Harry Hart, Babbity, Rabbity, and her Crackling Stump, and then the Tale of the 3 Brothers. Because most Harry Potter fans, if you're just general Harry Potter fans, are only familiar with the Tale of the 3 Brothers, that is the one that I'm gonna stick to, because that's the one that you see in the movies. They briefly mention the other ones in the movie and in the book, but I am gonna stick to the Tale of the 3 Brothers. If I read this whole book, it might take me a while. So we're just going to do the Tale of the 3 Brothers from the Tales of Beedle the Bard. And it starts on page 87, so let me get to page 87. So if you're familiar with this tale, if you watch the Harry Potter movies, you'll know that it was in the Deathly Hallows movie, at the point to where Ron, Hermione, and Harry go to visit Luna Lovegood's father, like Luna Lovegood, at the house, and because they wanted to ask questions about that, and that's where they tell the story, and Luna's father does it. Okay, the Tale of the 3 Brothers. There were once 3 brothers who were traveling along a lonely, winding road at twilight. In time, the brothers reached a river too deep to wade through and too dangerous to swim across. However, these brothers were learned in the magical arts, and so they simply waved their wands and made a bridge appear across the treacherous water. They were halfway across it when they found their path blocked by a hooded figure, and Death spoke to them. He was angry he had been cheated out of 3 new victims, for travelers usually drowned in the river. But Death was cunning. He pretended to congratulate the 3 brothers upon their magic and said that each had earned a prize for having been clever enough to evade him. So the oldest brother, who was a combative man, asked for a wand more powerful than any in existence. A wand that must always win duels for its owner, a wand worthy of a wizard who had conquered death. So Death crossed to an elder tree on the bank of the river, fashioned a wand with a branch that hung there, and gave it to the oldest brother. So that's Albus Dumbledore's wand, in case you didn't really know. Then the second brother, who was an arrogant man, decided that he wanted to humiliate Death still further and asked for the power to recall others from death. So Death picked up a stone from the riverbank and gave it to the second brother, and told him that the stone would have the power to bring back the dead. That is the resurrection stone that Harry ends up with. And then Death asked the third youngest brother what he would like. The youngest brother was the humblest and also the wisest of the brothers, and he did not trust Death. So he asked for something that would enable him to go forth from this place without being followed by Death. And Death most unwillingly handed over his own cloak of invisibility, which is the cloak that Harry has. Then Death stood aside and allowed the 3 brothers to continue on their way, and they did. So talking with the wonder of the adventure they had had and admiring Death's gifts. In due course, the brothers separated, each to his own destination. The first brother traveled on for a week or more, and reaching a distant village, he sought out a fellow wizard with whom he had quarrel. Naturally, with the elder one as his weapon, he could not fail to win the duel that followed. Leaving this enemy dead upon the floor, the oldest brother proceeded to an inn where he boasted loudly of the powerful wand he had snatched from Death himself, and of how it made him invincible. That very night, another wizard crept upon the oldest brother as he lay wine-sodden upon his bed. The thief took the wand and, for good measure, slit the oldest brother's throat. Definitely not kid-friendly. And so Death took the first brother for his own. Meanwhile, the second brother journeyed to his own home, where he lived alone. Here he took out the stone that had the power to recall the dead, and turned it thrice in his hand. To his amazement and his delight, the figure of the girl he had once hoped to marry before her untimely death appeared at once before him. Yet she was silent and cold, separated from him as though by a veil. Though she had returned to the mortal world, she did not truly belong there, and suffered. Finally, the second brother, driven mad with hopeless longing, killed himself so as truly to join her. And so Death took the second brother for his own. But though Death searched for the third brother for many years, he was never able to find him. It was only when he had attained a great age that the youngest brother finally took off the cloak of invisibility and gave it to his son. And then he greeted Death as an old friend and went with him gladly. And equals, they departed this life. So I'm going to go ahead and also read you Albus Dumbledore's notes within this, mainly so that you can have an idea of where, in case you're not real familiar with Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, you can be real familiar. You can understand the story better, because the story plays into the whole series. J.K. Rowling was amazing with that. So Albus Dumbledore on the Tale of the Three Brothers. This story made a profound impression on me as a boy. I heard it first from my mother, and it soon became the tale I requested more often than any other at bedtime. This frequently led to arguments with my younger brother, Albaforth, whose favorite story was Grumble the Grumpy Goat. The moral of the Tales of the Three Brothers could not be any clearer. Human efforts to evade or overcome death are always doomed to disappointment. The third brother in the story, the humblest and also the wisest, is the only one who understands that. Having narrowly escaped death once, the best he can hope for is to postpone their next meeting for as long as possible. The youngest brother knows that taunting death by engaging in violence like the first brother, or by meddling with the shadowy arts of necromancy like the second brother, means pitting oneself against wily enemy who cannot lose. The irony is that the curious legend has grown up around this story, which precisely contradicts the message of the original. This legend holds that death gives the brothers an unbeatable wand, a stone that can bring back the dead, and an invisibility cloak that endures forever, are genuine objects that exist in the real world. The legend goes further. If any person becomes the rightful owner of all three, then he or she will become master of death, which has usually been understood to mean that they will be invulnerable, even immortal. We may smile a little sadly at what this tells us about human nature. The kindest interpretation would be hope springs eternal. In spite of the fact that, according to Beedle, 2 of the 3 objects are highly dangerous, in spite of the clear message that death comes for us all in the end, a tiny minority of the wizarding community persists in believing that Beedle was sending them a coded message, which is the exact reverse of the one set down in ink, and that they alone are clever enough to understand it. Their theory, or perhaps desperate hope might be a more accurate term, is supported by little actual evidence. True invisibility cloaks, though rare, exist in the world of ours. However, the story makes it clear that Death's cloak is of a uniquely durable nature. Through all the centuries that have intervened between Beedle's day and our own, nobody has ever claimed to have found Death's cloak. This is explained away by true believers. Thus, either the third brother's descendants do not know where the cloak came from, or they know and are determined to show their ancestors' wisdom by not trumpeting the fact. Naturally enough, the stone has never been found either. As I have already noted in the commentary for Babbity Rabbity and her clacking stump, we remain incapable of raising the dead, and there is every reason to suppose that this will never happen. Vile substitutions have of course been attempted by dark wizards who have created Inferia, but these are ghastly puppets, not truly reawoken humans. What is more, Beedle's story is quite explicit about the fact that the second brother, Lost Love, has not really returned from the dead. She has been sent by death to lure the second brother into death's clutches, and is therefore cold, remote, both present and absent. This leaves us with the wand, and here are the obstinate believers in Beedle's hidden message have at least some historical evidence to back up their wild claims. For it is the case, whether because they liked to glorify themselves or to intimidate possible attackers, or because they truly believed what they were saying. That wizards down the ages have claimed to possess a wand more powerful than the ordinary, even an unbeatable one. Some of these wizards have gone so far as to claim that their wand is made of elder, like the one supposedly made by death. Such wands have been given many names, among them the Wand of Destiny and the Death Stick. It is hardly surprising that old superstitions have grown up around our wands, which are, after all, the most important magical tools and weapons. Certain wands, and therefore their owners, are supposed to be incompatible or to denote flaws in the owner's characters. And sure enough, within this category of unproven saying, that we find one of elder never prosper. Whether because of the fact that death makes the fictional wand out of the elder is Beedle's story, or because power-hungry or violent wizards have persistently claimed that their own wands are made of elder. It is not a wood that is much favorable among wand makers. The first well-documented mention of a wand made of elder that had particularly strong and dangerous powers was owned by Emmerich, commonly called the Evil, a short-lived but exceptionally aggressive wizard who terrorized the south of England in the early Middle Ages. He died as he had lived, in a furious duel with a wizard known as Egbert. What became of Egbert is unknown, although the life expectancy of medieval duelers was generally short. In the days before there was a Ministry of Magic to regulate the use of dark magic, dueling was usually fatal. A full century later, another unpleasant character with the name of Godolite, I don't know if I'm saying that wrong or not, advanced the study of dark magic by writing a collection of dangerous spells with the help of a wand he described in his notebook as my most wicked and subtle friend, with bodied of Elihorn, who knows ways of magic most evil. As can be seen, Golert, considers his wand to be a helpmate, almost an instructor. Those who are knowledgeable about wand lore will agree that wands do indeed absorb the expertise of those who use them. Though this is an unpredictable and imperfect business, one must consider all kinds of additional factors, such as the relationship between the wand and the user, to understand how well it is likely to perform with any particular individual. Nevertheless, a hypothetical wand that had passed through the hands of many dark wizards would be likely to have, at the very least, a marked affinity for the most dangerous kinds of magic. Most witches and wizards prefer a wand that has chosen them to any kind of second-hand one, precisely because the latter is likely to have learned habits from its previous owner that might not be compatible with the new owner's style of magic. The general practice of burying or burning the wand with its owner once he or she has died also tends to prevent any individual wand learning from too many masters. Believers in the Elder Wand, however, hold that because of the way in which it has always passed allegiance between owners, the next master overcoming the first, usually by killing them, the Elder Wand has never been destroyed or buried, but has survived to accumulate wisdom, strength, power far beyond the ordinary. Golot is known to have perished in his own cellar, where he was locked by his mad son, Hereward. Maybe pronouncing that wrong. We must assume that Hereward took his father's wand, or the latter would have been able to escape. But what Hereward did with the wand after that, what we cannot be sure. All that is certain is that a wand called the Eldrun wand by its owner Barnabas Deverill, whatever, appeared in the early 18th century, and that Deverill used it to carve himself out a reputation as a fearsome warlock until his reign of terror was ended by the equally notorious Loxias, who took the wand, renaming it as the Death Stick, and used it to lay waste on anyone who displeased him. It is difficult to trace the subsequent history of Loxias' wand, as many claim to have finished him off, including his own mother. What must strike an intelligent witch or wizard on studying a so-called history of the Elder Wand is that every man who claims to have owned it has insisted that it is unbeatable, when the known facts of its passage through many owners' hands demonstrate that not only has it been beaten hundreds of times, but that it also attracts trouble as grubby goat attracts flies. Ultimately, the quest of the Elder Wand merely supports an observation I have had occasion to make many times over the course of my long life, that humans have a knack for choosing precisely those things that are worse for them. But which of us would have shown the wisdom of the third brother? If offered the pick of death's gifts, wizards and muggles alike are struck with lust of power. How many would resist the wand of destiny? Which human being, having lost somebody they loved, would withstand the temptation of a resurrection stone? Even I, Albus Dumbledore, would find it easiest to refuse the invisibility cloak, which only goes to show that, as clever as I am, I remain just as big a fool as anyone else. Okay, so that's the story. That's Albus Dumbledore's take on the story and on whether or not it's real or not. It plays out in the movies. If you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, it plays out in the movies that all three of them are real, that Albus Dumbledore had all three of them at one point and handed all three of those down to Harry Potter throughout the story. He gets the invisibility cloak in the first movie, and then in the last movie / book, Deathly Hallows, he gets the other two. And putting those three together is how he was resurrected when Voldemort killed him in the first place. So that's a story. This was a very long story. It's a very long video. I actually really enjoyed telling this story because I share my love of Harry Potter with everybody. Most of you get to see my Disney love, which you see on my shirt. But Harry Potter is truly my favorite. It is my passion. I have more Harry Potter things than I have of anything else. I love Harry Potter, the books, the movie, and the collectibles too, but Disney feels like home to me, if that makes any sense at all. So being able to tell a Harry Potter story in collaboration with all my Disney friends, I really enjoyed. And like I said at the beginning, please go check out the other channels and listen to their stories. Let us know how we did with reading a tale. I actually don't usually read to my children that much. When I do, it is Harry Potter. To me, it is important for them to learn how to read, so I let them read. And if they ask a question of what this word is, I tell them. They are also 12 and 7, so they're a bit older. It's not like they're like youngsters. I mean, they're still youngsters, but they can read, and that's what's important. So again, go check out the other channels. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you did down in the comments. I love doing collaborations. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye now.